name is intimidating, then you start to see people like pop up on the kill feed, and that is additionally intimidating, right? Like, I guarantee the Yuta Esports boys have looked up to some of the players in this lobby for a very long time.
Absolutely, absolutely. These are some of the historical names that they're going to be going up against, and I'm really excited to see how they do. I mean, you know, it's kind of one of those moments where you get a couple kills on one of those big name teams, and you can, you know, brag about that in the bar for the rest of your life. You know, you sit up at the bar stool and come through, and yeah, I killed Under in the tournament. You know, 1v1, I took him down, but we'll see if that could come through. I'm just really interested about this. Now, a couple interesting early rotations. Ghibli. Coming out of the Razak school area.
Oh, man.
Straight over to Stalber.
Why you got to put me on the spot like that?
Had to dance around Donawa there. Afrika loves to work east to west.
Oh, man. Why you got to put me on the spot like that, dude? Look, as a casual Texan, I can't really do it, but
drive-by pop shots. They hold their compound. Not going to get much out of this, but really what you want to do here is that sort of porcupine.
The Razak school area.
Oh, man.
Straight over to Stalber.
Why you got to put me on the spot like that?
Had to dance around Dom.
There at Dom 1. But again,
not much going to come. Afrika loves to work east to west.
Oh, man. Why you got to put me on the spot like that, dude? Look, as a casual Texan, I can't really do it, but
drive-by pop shots. They hold their compound. Not going to get much out of this, but really what you want to do here is that sort of
Razak school area. Oh, man.
Straight over to Stalber.
Why you got to put me on the spot like that?
Had to dance around Dom.
There at Dom 1. But again, not much going to come.
Afrika loves to work east to west.
Oh, man. Why you got to put me on the spot like that, dude? Like, as a casual Texan, I can't really do it, but
drive-by pop shots. They hold their compound. Not going to get much out of this, but
they have quite a few hanging out over on the western side. STR.
Really what you want to do here is that sort of
gaming M88. They're all taking their sweet time to the area even still. So there could be similar ideas on their rotation paths. Happen to be about the same, and they cross paths. Maybe that'll happen. For JDI right now, yeah, they were able to get out of
Razak school area. Oh, man.
Straight over to Stalber.
Why you got to put me on the spot like that?
Had to dance around Dom.
There at Dom 1. But again, that is the name of the team, but JDI is just faster and more fun. Dom 1.
Afrika loves to work east to west. Oh, man. Why you got to put me on the spot like that, dude? Like, as a casual Texan, I can't really do it, but
just like to hit these. That's it. Those of you who are watching, super rule set. It's what we're
not going to get much out of this, but they have
kind of goes down from there. So on a circle like this,
where 40%
out
over on the western side,
really would choose to rotate in late. They could choose to look for kills over necessarily winning based on placement, because
what you want to do here is that sort of
5 or 6 kills
M88.
Go out
they're
even
all taking their sweet time.
You're going to get just as many points as a team with a good compound who sits in the middle
of the area even still. So there could be similar ideas on their rotation paths.
Right now,
happen to be about the same, and they cross paths. Maybe that'll happen. For JDI right now, yeah, they were able to get out of
Razak school area.
Straight over to Stalber.
Why you got to put me on the spot like that?
Dance around Dom.
There at Dom 1. But again,
the name of the team, but JDI is just faster and more fun. Dom 1.
Afrika loves to work east to west. Oh, man. Why you got to put me on the spot like that? Like, as a casual Texan, I can't really do it, but
just like to hit these. That's it. Those of you who are watching, super rule set. What we're finding
not going to get much out of this, but they have
kind of goes down from there. So on a circle like this, where
hanging out over on the western side,
really would choose to rotate in late. They could choose to look for kills over necessarily winning based on placement, because
what you want to do here is that sort of
5 or 6
M88. They're all taking their sweet time.
You're going to get just as many points as a team with a good
compound
but so
who
far he
sits in
doesn't
the
have a lot
middle.
of
The area
Kind of
even
left to his own
still.
devices.
So there could be similar ideas on their rotation paths. Happen to be about the same, and they cause paths. Maybe that'll happen. For JDI right now, yeah, they were able to get out of the Razak school area. Dance around Dom.
And Dom went the name of the team, but JDI is just faster and more fun. Dom was
Kringle loves to work just for last. Why you gotta put me on the spot like that? As a casual Texan, I can't really joke,
that's it. Those of you who are watching, super rule set. What we're finding on JDI, not going to get much out of this, but they have Ed. Kind of goes down from there. So, auto circle like this, where
hanging out over on the western side,
where they would choose to rotate in late. They could choose to look for kills over necessarily winning based on placement, because what you do here is that sort of
M88. They're even all taking their sweet time.
They get just as many points as the team with a good compound who sits in the middle.
The area even still. So there could be similar ideas on their rotation paths. Happen to be about the same, and they cause paths. Maybe that'll happen. For JDI, right?
JDI just has a great.
Able to get out of the Razak school area. Dance around Dom.
And Dom went the name of the team, but JDI is just faster and more fun. Dom was
Kringle loves to work just for last. Why you gotta put me on the spot like that? As a casual Texan, I can't really
that's it. Those of you who are watching, super rule set. What we're finding on JDI, not going to get much out of this, but they have Ed. Kind of goes down from there. So, auto circle like this, where
hanging out over on the western side,
where they would choose to rotate in late. They could choose to look for kills over necessarily winning based on placement, because what you do here is that sort of
M88. They're even all taking their sweet time.
Already, but Curzon, tell you what, they're a different squad than the last time I saw them at PCS Asia, but they had a moment. They had a hot moment where they looked great. Ooh, that's some really good shooting from Shinobi with that Mark 14 from quite a bit of ways. And that's going to really open up the door for Curzon. They know what they're fighting, and they're just going to use this opportunity to wipe them out. Well done,
JDI got J-dunked on as they got completely eradicated. Shinobi, living up to his name, never even saw him. The ninja drops the first person from JDI, and that just opened the door. From then, JDI had no back cover, and they fell apart. That said, CRS not off the docket yet because Jesters heard the fight, and third-party life is the best life. Sinvi comes in, opens fire, and immediately gets the drop and flush on Sasa. Simba with the return, gets a nice little kill here. Simba's going to try to make a push up on the left side. Upchin does get a knock on Fianchan, and that will be the end of Rascal Jester. They came up to third party. They had the advantage paper, and they just could not make it work as CRS turns and dumps them. Congratulations, Team Curzon.
Yeah, it's good shooting, good fanning out by Team Curzon there. Just good recoil control. They come from a couple different angles. They just win their duels really fast. That's impressive. Rascal Jester, they're no slouches. They're very strong. That just was better shooting. You know, it's a tougher angle, a little bit being downhill, but you do have the cover to work with as well. So I'd say that fight pretty fair. And Curzon making the best of it, racking in a lot of kills. MP5 and Sun Sister duking it out over on the side here. Kendes trying to get some smokes down. Gami's already been knocked.
So Sun Sister actually just rotated in north from the shore, basically, the beach, and just have not been able to find anywhere. They got lambasted by MP5, the uphill of Ghibli. They don't have any options. So that's what you're seeing right now, is they're tucking into the rocks and just standing in smoke and hoping MP5 and Ghibli fight each other instead.
Absolutely. It's going to be really awkward now for Sun Sister. They were just trying to kind of find an edge into the circle, and it's already pretty well occupied by a couple different teams. Ghibli is going to try to do what a lot of Korean teams like to do, control a lot of space, spread themselves out pretty deep. You can see they're about a 300-meter spread for Ghibli, and that's pretty normal. But Crazy Sam finds the backside of Adder here. Adder is going to get knocked. Should be a pretty easy flush for Crazy Sam. Can't talk about Sun Sister without talking about him. Renba's going to get him, though. Coming down, trying to support his teammate. Wasn't there in time to save him, and now it's Kendes's turn to try this.
Destiny comes up over the hill, starts to fire right away. Look at that pre-shot as he comes up over the top and gets Remba down. I was going to say Sun Sister losing Crazy Sam is massive. Adder going down is scary, but Ghibli's got so many good players. And then Sun Sister comes out, tries to make a play. It just doesn't happen because MP5 is also pushing up behind them. The third party once again creates a Sun Sister sandwich, and they're just left for dead.
Yeah, for Sun Sister, I think they got a little, sidetrack coming up the side of the hill and, maybe saw one team and felt like they could stop and be safe, but there's actually two. Danawan out, reaching out, keeping track of their kill feeds, trying to find maybe some extra kills along the side, and we switch over to Amanat, who is in a house, and it's on fire, and Freak of Freaks wants to push up the stairs. They want to eliminate E36 here. Amanat going to cook that frag, throw it on down. Freaka some shots from outside, going to hit him, back him up, stuns. It's time. Throwing them down the stairs, bouncing him around the corner. Oh, no, not like this.
No! Amanat, he gets knocked out. He tried to hold the stairwell, and it was just too much stall. The smoke was never going to work, and ultimately he goes down. Let's jump over to PSTR as they try to hold a pushing M88, trying to come in here on a Freak of Freaks. E36 died up on top of the Freaks again. That seems to be the staple that we've seen so far, Paper. Every time someone wipes a team, there's another team immediately pushing in to try to capitalize on that.
Yeah, it's an aggressive lobby. Teams are figuring each other out, trying to occupy a lot of space on the side of this hill. There's actually quite a bit of room to breathe. There's a lot of terrain that you can utilize to keep yourself covered, but a lot of these teams feeling that the third parties are the way to go. Maybe see if you could just punch some of these teams in the mouth and maybe shake them up a bit, see if Afrika can hold on. Right now, M88 hasn't found any kind of opening as the circle continues to indeed head to the north side of Stalber. So Danawa is able to stay in their position since the beginning after they rotated out of Yaz, and we'll see where this one goes. Korean team still up and kicking.
I'm loving the aggression, though. It's one of those things you talk to fighters, and they say in the first round, if you can punch them in the mouth enough times, they think twice about coming after you in round two. So I like seeing these teams come out, try to establish some dominance here early on as they T-stand all over this map, or T-pose all over this thing. It's been fun to watch. That said, it is a unique circle. It has chosen to remain on Stalber, which is going to create a lot of issues for these northern teams we're watching right now, like the Freaks, who if they survive this, will have to continuously move uphill to gain ground. And that is a very tough thing to do on this part of the map.
Yeah, absolutely. It is pretty difficult if it does end up shifting that way. You can see out just to EJ's right there. It's pretty steep terrain at times that you can't necessarily walk up. So you got to be pretty careful, and it's easier for teams to bottleneck you in some situations like that. Now, I mean, M88 trying to get pretty deep. EJ not really able to connect with his barrel spray probably as much as he would have liked. Some of the bars, I think, catching a few of those bullets for him as well. And for now, neither of these teams has to fight this toughness.
They don't, but they will. As Hansia gets the return knock on Magic. He did get Hikari down. Jason outside with the mini trying to peek a window. Pays the price for his hubris as Roa gets him down. And now it's about the Freaks here just sort of holding the door. They've played this textbook defensive. Look to your left, EJ. He gets the pivot and slaps M88 right in the mouth. EJ should not have won that.
No, but EJ, he's crazy good. One of the best players in Korea from time to time, and also the shot caller for the Freaks on top of it. So this Freak squad has a ton of potential, even with Roa filling in for Akkad. It's still a crazy good team that won the preseason PWS before PGIS. They're just very strong, very talented at times. They had the PW, I think at PGIS they'd like to have a few of those moments back. But they did win a week. That's pretty good. Yeah. Simba going to come up over the top with the mini, finish one off. And there might be a battle brewing between Curzon and somebody else here. It looks like STR up to the north.
Yeah, it'd be fun to see. Simba has been getting some good lineups here. He's got that mini. Not my favorite DMR, but effective as he waits for the rotation. We do see Zanyo go down as EJ from the bottom puts some work into PTS. Simba waited for the right opportunity. That is why I don't love this gun as much as I used to. Or it would have been over.
Well, it's hard. I mean, it's oh man, you saw some of the really good players recently at PGIS really pop off with the Mini and only use the Mini. Tiggleton in particular comes to mind. But the SLR, I think, in the right hands and in the right players is just so devastating. It just hits so much harder. But it all just kind of depends on your preference. But yeah, I think in that situation, you might want an SLR.
There's also something to be said for, you know, we've seen the growth of SLR SKS because of the barrel meta, the fact that you're sort of rolling with the ammunition already. It works out to sort of use that combo. That said, there's been some changes, so we'll see if that affects the way that the Mini is picked up in builds moving forward. So I'm excited to see that. PSTR is eliminated, leaving us to 7 teams, 21 players, and a very small circle that has no cover outside of 2 buildings and a lot of sort of elevation, I guess, is the way to say it.
Sure, absolutely. This is an odd one, no doubt about it. It feels kind of like a pub lobby.
Oh!
21 alive. Rex, good spray, trying to get the next one. Kale's got a pretty good one, going for the flush around the corner. Gonna pick it up. Very nicely done by Rex. Gonna reposition here to avoid any frag grenades. Very smartly done by Rex, buying a lot of time. He's getting the rest of his team in position, picks up the knock basically and the flush for free. That's really well executed.
Yeah, it was a great executed. He was Rex the junkyard dog as he waited for the trap, got the knock, and it was a big kill to get to. Losing Wicked, the new member of the team who was very strong in PGIS when he was playing, goes down early and puts Kia at a disadvantage as they try to move forward here. They now have to smoke up and rotate away because they know that if Rex was there, Danawa definitely has the compound controlled as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and they do. MP5 is coming up from the backside, so if Kia could kind of maneuver themselves properly, they might be able to kind of get MP5 and Danawa to fight, and maybe be able to put Danawa in a sandwich situation where they're in a precarious position. Now the circle is kind of still almost inside of that compound, but here comes Curzon. They continue to rock and roll, and it's going to be under, knocked by Martian Chun. 10 kills here for Curzon. Man, this is reminiscent of the Asia Charity Showdown where they just came out guns blazing. Kale's going down now as well. Damwon Kia falling apart.
Damwon Kia, a legendary team with a legendarily terrible performance at PGIS, does make it to the top 7, but are getting dismantled. As you brought it up, they are the iron between the hammer and the anvil and get completely flattened by these 2 teams who erase them from the map and open up Northern control. As Danawa, I think if they can hold off MP5 and push back CRS, this is a great spot to play the rest of the game out of.
Oh, for sure. Danawa really wants to try to clear the space as much as they can. You know, clearing those edges is something you talk about all the time as a PUBG pro. It's something you got to be really efficient at doing if you're going to be on that side. So for MP5, they've been able to wait this out. They haven't found a good angle to get aggressive on a Danawa. Yes, Rex has been knocked, but there's still kind of that compound in the way. And you also have the Buzzsaw of Soul, although he's going to get knocked by Martian Chun.
Wow,
man, Curzon
CRS
is crazy.
They really are. They came to play, and they're playing like they have nothing to lose, which in PUBG results greatness. This time, it results in a 6th place finish, but their kill was impressive. So they will continue to move forward. You see on the left side, they're currently in 1st with 15 points, despite going out in 6th because of their kill count, putting so much on the board. But now we check in with EJ as he lines up the perfect shot, decides not to give away his position. For those of you watching at home, playing ranked, sometimes not taking the shot is just as important as taking it.
Yeah, absolutely. But another thing you'll see that good players do is they're always moving, they're always changing elevations, crouching, uncrouching, doing those things to make their HUDs harder to hit. In fact, you know, you can kind of run and punch at the same time, and that jiggles your head a little bit as well. So there's a lot of little things that the players can do to keep themselves from, being unfortunate of an easy headshot, an easy knock. Machao just hiding all alone on the southwestern side. I actually wouldn't be too surprised to see him finish with a 2nd place if nobody comes over here and clears him out.
And it seems like because that's the low ground, assuming the shift benefits him, as it looks like it may, he will sort of get to hang out there. Now, if the circle moves aggressively towards the south or towards the box, as Fraz would say, then he has a chase to execute, and maybe tough, but he gets the circle. Meanwhile, Salute gets the opening spray against MP5. MP5 wants to return this. They do knock Salute down. Rex, the last player left. He's trying to fight back against the only 4-man squad left on the map. If MP5 can clear out this threat and stay 4 up, it's almost a guaranteed win for them.
Oh, there's a good grenade from Fanghua that's going to finish the job on to Danawa. A little help in the backside from the Freaks into Rex, softens him up for that. EJ trying to
really are. They came to play,
and they're trying to get behind the rock, just barely
playing like they have nothing to lose, which in PUBG results greatness. This time it results in a 6th place finish, but their kill was impressive. So they will continue to move forward. You see on the left side, they're currently in first with 15 points, despite going out in 6th because of their kill count, putting so much on the board. But now we check in with EJ as he lines up the perfect shot, decides not to give away his position. For those of you watching at home, playing ranked, sometimes not taking the shot is just as important as taking it.
They go down.
Yeah, absolutely. But another thing you'll see that good players do is they're always moving, they're always changing elevations, crouching, uncrouching, doing those things to make their HUDs harder to hit. In fact, you can kind of run and punch at the same time, and that jiggles your head a little bit as well. So there's a lot of little things that the players can do
still just maintaining this southeastern edge
to keep themselves from, being unfortunate of an easy headshot, an easy knock. But Chow just hiding all alone on the southwestern side. I actually wouldn't be too surprised to see him finish with a 2nd place if nobody comes over here and clears him out.
And it seems like because that's the low ground, assuming the shift benefits him, as it looks like it may, yeah, he will sort of get to hang out there. Now, if the circle moves aggressively towards the south, or towards the box, as Fraz would say, then he has a chase to execute, and maybe tough, but he gets the circle. Meanwhile, Salute gets the opening spray against MP5. MP5 wants to return this. They do knock Salute down. Rex, the last player left. He's trying to fight back against the only 4-man squad left on the map. If MP5 can clear out this threat and stay 4 up, it's almost a guaranteed win for them.
Oh, there's a good grenade from Fanghua. It's going to finish the job on to Danawa. A little help in the backside from the Freaks into Rex, softens him up for that. EJ trying to
really are. They came to play,
and they're trying to get behind the rock, just barely
playing like they have nothing to lose, which in PUBG results greatness. This time it results in a 6th place finish, but their kill was impressive. So they will continue to move forward. You see on the left side, they're currently in first with 15 points, despite going out in 6th because of their kill count, putting so much on the board. But now we check in with EJ as he lines up the perfect shot, decides not to give away his position. For those of you watching at home, playing ranked, sometimes not taking the shot is just as important as taking it.
Yeah, absolutely. But another thing you'll see that good players do is they're always moving, they're always changing elevations, crouching, uncrouching, doing those things to make their HUDs harder to hit. In fact, you can kind of run and punch at the same time, and that jiggles your head a little bit as well. So there's a lot of little things that the players can do, still just maintaining the southeastern edge to keep themselves from, being unfortunate of an easy headshot, an easy knock. But Chow just hiding all alone on the southwestern side. I actually wouldn't be too surprised to see him finish with a 2nd place if nobody comes over here and clears him out.
And it seems like because that's the low ground, assuming the shift benefits him, as it looks like it may, yeah, he will sort of get to hang out there. Now, if the circle moves aggressively towards the south, or towards the box, as Fraz would say, then he has a chase to execute, and maybe tough, but he gets the circle. Meanwhile, Salute gets the opening spray against MP5. MP5 wants to return this. They do knock Salute down. Rex, the last player left. He's trying to fight back against the only 4-man squad left on the map. If MP5 can clear out this threat and stay 4 up, it's almost a guaranteed win for them.
Oh, there's a good grenade from Fanghua. It's going to finish the job on to Danawa. A little help in the backside from the Freaks into Rex, softens him up for that. EJ trying to
really are. They came to play,
and they're trying to get behind the rock, just barely
playing like they have nothing to lose, which in PUBG results greatness. This time it results in a 6th place finish, but their kill was impressive. So they will continue to move forward. You see on the left side, they're currently in first with 15 points, despite going out in 6th because of their kill count, putting so much on the board. But now now we check in with EJ as he lines up the perfect shot, decides not to give away his position. For those of you watching at home, playing ranked, sometimes not taking the shot is just as important as taking it.
Yeah, absolutely. But another thing you'll see that good players do is they're always moving, they're always changing elevations, crouching, uncrouching, doing those things to make their heads harder to hit. In fact, you can kind of run and punch at the same time, and that jiggles your head a little bit as well. So there's a lot of little things that the players can do, still just maintaining the southeastern edge to keep themselves from, being unfortunate of an easy headshot, an easy knock. With Chow just hiding. The southeastern edge keep themselves from, being unfortunate of an easy headshot, an easy knock. With Chow just hiding.
Hi, I'm Alodia, and I'm a proud Predator of Captain. My all-time favorite games would be Warcraft, Alpha, Resident Evil, the moment I gained consciousness, so that
The southeastern edge keep themselves from, being unfortunate of an easy headshot, an easy knock. With Chow just hiding.
Alodia, and I'm a proud Predator of Captain. My all-time favorite games would Warcraft, Alpha, Resident Evil, the moment I gained consciousness, so that
The southeastern edge keep themselves from, being unfortunate of an easy headshot, an easy knock. With Chow just hiding.
Since Counter-Strike days. It's because so if I'm streaming, sometimes it will take 6 hours, sometimes 12 hours. My most unforgettable game Hi, I'm Alodia, and I'm a proud Predator of Captain. My all-time favorite game gamers, because I don't know how they can say that. My whole life revolves around gaming. My favorite Predator item would be, I guess you guys
us right now, and a team from Macau actually taking that victory in a definitive way, taking that win against Freaka TV. But it's not all about them. A lot of other teams came out to play. Honestly, my I got my player, I got my pass coming out right now. What are your impressions of that last match? Black people against you.
Well, I mean, to start things off, so all the way to right? And then when that happened, I was kind of thinking, okay, MP5, they can ride the circle. Hold on, I am not.
Welcome back, guys. Acer has been joining us right now, and a team from Macau actually taking that victory in a definitive way, taking that win against Freaka TV. But it's not all about them. Other teams came out to play. As a commentary, I got my coming out right now. What are your impressions of that last match? Black people against you.
Well, I mean, to start things off, and then when that happened, I was kind of thinking, okay, MP5, they can ride the circle. Hold on, I am not.
Welcome back, guys. Acer has been joining us right now, and a team from Macau actually taking that victory in a definitive way, taking that win against Freaka TV. But it's not all about
stoked, man. I mean, you look at the game that they had playing from the western side, which, to be fair, was pretty crowded over there. A lot of teams coming in early game and mid game, and you had some pretty big hitters on that side, but Curzon did their best to kind of sweep through everybody. They took care of Rascal Jester, as we see here. They managed to keep 3 up, and the thing that impressed me the most about Curzon is once they cleared out that western end, they weren't content to just kind of hang out there and chill and wait to see where the next circle took them. They took the proactive approach. They wrapped down south. They tried to third party onto a Freaka, saw it wasn't there. They picked off a couple of kills off of STR, but then they then wrapped around to the north side and were able to third party on the fight between Danawa and Damwon Kia, who were in arguably fantastic position. They had the top of Stalber, but because of the aggressiveness coming out of teams like Curzon and MP5, Damwon and Danawa just ended up getting sandwiched at the worst possible times. And I don't think that that's something that those two teams were expecting. So this is one of the, we talked about coming into today that the Korean teams are kind of like our favorites heading into this, unless they run across something that they were not expecting. And right now, I think they've got to be a little bit shell-shocked by the aggressiveness coming out from some of these other squads.
I mean, who wouldn't be caught off guard like that? Gongwon getting flanked multiple times, despite the amount of map control they had, especially towards Stalber. They rotated in, they took the center of that circle quite early, had a lot of control, and they actually won a lot of team fights that they had no business winning. In the end, coming out on top in their respective area around Stalber, they did get taken down, but at the end of the day, they still couldn't take out that victory. They might be able to address this a little bit later on. I'll go back to you, Poro, on this. They had a lot of control and they lost it. Is this something they can fix, especially since we're going back to Erangel right after?
And we're talking about Danawa here?
Yeah, sorry, Danawa.
Oh, okay, yeah. So no, I mean, I think that they did exactly what they needed to do, right? They had the top of Stalber, but with those circle shifts where everything kept playing off to the north, it was just a matter of time before somebody would just wrap on top of them. And I think that they were expecting one team for sure. They actually
won a lot of team fights that they had no business winning. In the end, coming out on top in their respective area around Stalber, they did get taken down, but at the end of the day, they still couldn't take out that victory. They might be able to address this a little bit later on. I'll go back to you, Poro, on this. They had a lot of control and they lost it. This is something they can fix, especially since we're going back to Erangel right after.
Danawa was prepared for that. And we're talking about Donald? Still ended up getting a nice little chunk of points off of kills.
Okay, yeah.
But,
so
like you
no,
said,
I mean, I think that they did exactly what they needed to do, right? They had the top of Stalber, but with those circle shifts where everything kept playing off to the north, it was just a matter of time before somebody would just wrap on top of them. And I think that they were expecting one team for sure.
They actually won a lot of team fights that they had no business winning. In the end, coming out on top in their respective area around Stalber, they did get taken down. But at the end,
I would like to say I think they were the 4th team, or about their 4th or 5th team to get into that zone, and they kind of went from like a southern trajectory, then went around to the eastern side where they tried to hold things down. It was just across the ridge from where Afrika Freaks were holding on at the very start as well. From where Donra were holding. And so they were kind of chilling on here. But the thing is, a bunch of teams kind of had the same idea. And they had to take multiple fights at a time. In the end, 2 of them went down. And so they kind of just had to play, the pointing game and try and get as far as they can. I think at the end of things, they kind of placed, 5th, right?
I think, something like that was about 6 kills.
No, I think Curzon placed 6th. I think JBL, they went down, Ghibli here, they went 5th, so you still do get points from that. And when you're down already in the numbers, your man advantage isn't falling your way. Sometimes you have to play that point game, and as you saw, they just tried to keep it. Actually, now I remember correctly, they did end up 3rd because the last 2 teams obviously were MP5 and Donwa, so they did end up 3rd, so they do get points from that, and they got a bunch of frags, as Poru pointed out. And so right now for Ghibli, not looking too bad just yet, even though that match, it didn't really go out their way. They got pincered in multiple positions. They got, sandwiched between a rock and a hard place, and really, in the end of it, their back broke against that, but they still do get the points on the board. They still do get a decent amount of frags. Still, looking good for the Korean, squads in general. They were all able to get decently far here. I'm looking to the Japanese teams this time to really step up to the plate, because last time, we saw Macau represent MP5 going all the way, chicken dinner, winner. And so I'm really looking to the Japanese teams here now to step to that plate, and hopefully as we go back to Erangel for map number 2, that's going to happen once more.
You did mention MP5, the winners from Macau, definitely not a team that we can look over. Let's take a look at their stats, because I think we're just about ready to pull them up with that last victory. They did get the chicken dinner on that one. A great performance from them. Not the most convincing, honestly. Let's take a look at how things went in that last game. The scoreboard's coming up for you right before we show you guys the statistics right now. And as you can see, MP5, look, 8 kills, 10 points for placements, obviously, because they won. That's a sizable chunk of points that they actually just got here. Curzon not too far behind, even though they only got 5 placement points. They get 13 kills, mind you. 13 kills, just not something you can afford to gloss over. What do you think about how this is going down right now, Poro?
I mean, Team Curzon is definitely letting everybody know the type of game that they're wanting to play, right? Like they are putting this lobby on notice. Look, we are coming after kills. We are going to get our points no matter what you have to say. If we get placement, fantastic. We'll take it. But we're looking to primarily get our points by coming in here and punching you in the mouth and fighting you every step of the way. So I think that's got to put a lot of these other squads on notice, especially these Korean teams that maybe don't have as much experience against these squads that are primarily more kind of they hang out more in like the APAC region in general. And so this is why this lobby is so exciting to me personally, is because this is teams that we don't often see in a lobby together really squaring off against each other. And I think the Korean teams definitely got to be put on notice. I know the Japanese teams have been put on notice after that first game, because they didn't have as great a time that time around.
No, not at all. Yeah. And you know who else didn't have a great time? Rascal Jester, one of the teams that are from Japan, looking to make a mark. These guys have been together for a while, and they have actually performed well previously in recent tournaments, just never sort of clinching those victories. Arguably the second best team in Japan, but they ended up falling way short, getting knocked out far too early, only getting 1 kill. What's the game plan right now, Black and Blue, for Rascal Jester? How do they get back into this?
Oh no, I think while you can put some of that weight on their shoulders and they didn't perform too well, I don't think that the circle, the zone, actually closed in favor of them. It was kind of a wild zone. It's not one of those zones where it's a basic one straight on the middle of the map, even though the trajectory of the plane at the start of things was straight on through. It was looking to be, a pretty simple game to start things off. it was, well, anything but at the end of things. And so I'm hoping here that, you know, I think it's just them getting unfortunate in how things did transpire throughout. And, you know, certainly a bit of luck is a factor here. And you saw a lot of that fall the way of MP5, honestly, with them not being game-tapped as they come out in the military base. I'm hoping for their side, for the Japanese squads in general, that they're going to be able to, one, both play their positioning better when it comes to when to make that call to rotate into the zone, especially if they realize it might be unfavorable to them. And two, hopefully for their sake, well, the zone just comes their way.
Yeah, speaking of the zone, you did mention that, and honestly, how brutal was that first circle right there, Porosaurus? It's like 30% of it already in the water, and all the way up to Stalber. I think there was only one team who was safe for it, and everybody else had to reposition rather early. That's why we ended up seeing a lot of teams getting knocked out very, very early into the first and second circle, just forcing everybody to play in that tiny play zone. The second ones and third ones a little bit more forgiving, but still, the damage had been done by then.
Yeah, anytime you see a circle head up to Stalber, it always sets up for a pretty brutal mid game because of kind of what we were talking about. The elevation changes are such that you can be 15, 20 meters from another team and just never even know it until you're right on top of them, and all of a sudden you're forced to fight, you're forced to scrap it out. And so I definitely think a lot of these teams were kind of it was a little rude awakening for the first game of the tournament, and especially since we saw so many kind of late rotating teams that all kind of ended up running right into each other at the same time. As you said, it led to a lot of earlier game fighting than I think many teams would have wanted. So we'll see if we get a little bit more of a decent, kind, forgiving circle here in game number 2.
Well, maybe we'll get a mulligan for that circle in the second one, because we are seeing it again here for the the second map. Now let's talk about the players individually. We didn't really get to zone in on them. We saw a lot of great performances. The top players, rather, the top predators, if you will. We're about to come out and take a look at them in just a second here. Any predictions for who we might see? Right.
It has to be somebody from Curzon, right? They got what, 13, 16 frags in that one map alone? That's insane, dude. It has to be somebody from Curzon. I don't care. No, nothing else matters right now. Curzon, they just blast on in, and Poru, he's an instant fan. I can see it in his face from what we just saw there. God. Great wraparound, great fragging potential. I love the aggressive play, and so. I mean, if we were to guess, I think he would have the same answer here with me too, Poru, right? Has to be something from Curzon.
I mean,
you would figure.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no. I mean, you would figure it would have to be somebody from. And you hit the nail on the head. I am in love with this team now after watching one game, just specifically for the fact that they got knocked down to 3, and they're still aggressing onto other teams. They're still wanting to take those fights. They're still wrapping up to the top of the mountain to third party on a Danawa and Kia fight. I mean, that's 2 heavy hitting teams right there, and they're still like, you know what, we don't care, we know the names, sure, we're still going to take it right to you, we're going to punch you in the jaw, and you're not going to do anything about it. And that's what I love about these teams from that region in general. Curzon especially just not look intimidated by anybody right now. That's
just a good, I think, way of looking at the game coming from Curzon. Even if they're a man down, a lot of teams, a lot of other teams would be like, we're a man down, we'll go for placement, try to take these fights in the late game. But no, they just straight up do not care. Curzon just kept taking fights, saying if we go out, we're going to go out with a lot of kills. And that netted them the second place in the current scoreboards, in the current leaderboards. I do want to point out a couple players that did stand out to me. Sasa, who is, of course, the shot caller right there, made a lot of good calls for his team and also was pretty much fragging. The way that he was holding the eastern flank up around that Stalber area while he was baiting for his team, the way they split and held that map control was just amazing. Him working hand in hand with Upchen, just so much great stuff from them. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw maybe even 2 players from Curzon coming up in the top list that we're about to just go and check out. But as for other teams here, let's take a quick look. The players from Africa Africa Freaks, excuse me, they were also pretty much outstanding as well. Talk about EJ, who had a pretty good run as well, making those calls to get into the circle rather early, keeping his team alive for a while. Black and Blue, how important are those calls for him to make those early rotations, especially in a circle like that?
I mean, it's super important because, well, when it comes to it, you have two main decisions. Do you want to ride that circle on in, or do you want to try and get early position? We saw, like, from a team with Danwha, they went for that early play, yes, but what ended up happening was that they kind of put the target on themselves, wherein everybody was like, we want that position there right now up top. And so they kind of really fought for it. Now, fortunately for them, you know, being the veteran team that they are, all the experience that they have, and just the prowess, they're able to hold on for that position, for quite a rather long time. But they still did paint that target on their backs, and you can see them getting pincered from two different positions, both from the western and eastern flanks. And it really did come down to a fact where we're like, yeah, you have these decisions. Do we ride it on in late, or do we come in early? MP5, the team that did actually win the chicken dinner, chose the latter position, choice. They went to go in a bit earlier. They didn't ride that circle on, and even though, by the way, they were the team that spawned the furthest away from that zone, going towards the top east position, they rode it on in. They came in early and still able to make, able to get that chicken dinner on the win. And I have to also kind of point to the fact that, they have players like 911, and they have players like Something who are just, with all their veteran experience here in the competitive scene, they play a lot of grassroots tournament as well. They've been here for a while. Them to be able to make that call to, even though we're late, not to play the standard ride the circle on in. They don't play that standard type of play. They went on early, and it really just speaks to how much decision making mid-round really can be such a huge factor for any of these teams.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. And one thing I want to point out with the Freak of Freaks, they're a team that's very sort of malleable in how they play, very flexible. They don't exactly have set rules, much like other teams who have specific fraggers, specific supports. The only thing they really have is an in-game leader, a support, and everybody sort of just flexes, which is, I think, a really healthy way about playing the game. What do you think about this, Por? Because the way that they sort of play, they don't really have that much of a set role. They kind of let everybody sort of just flex. And I feel like this is a good thing because they don't have, what if somebody dies? What if your in-game leader dies early? What if your support dies early and then no one's going to play support? They sort of just fill in whatever gap that they do need.
Yeah, I mean, and I think majority of teams are going to be like that for the most part. I mean, especially when it comes to shot calling, you never know who's going to have the vision, who's going to have the information to make that right call at the same time. So having a team full of salty veterans like a Freak of Freaks, I mean, every single one of those guys could be a shot caller, could be an IGL for any other team in any league. It doesn't matter. They've got that much experience. They're that good. But when you have that much experience on one team, if you have that one final IGL, that's going to make probably your meta decisions. But when it comes down to the micro, when you get down into the team fights, everybody's going to trust everybody else, right? The comms are there. Everybody knows that if EJ sees something and says, hey, we should go do this, even if he's not necessarily the overall shot caller, they're still going to listen to him because he's got the best information at play. And I think a lot of these teams kind of operate on that same basis. If there's, something that comes down to the last minute, if there needs to be a tie break, then maybe that's where the IGL steps in. But everybody has respect for everybody else, every other player's opinion on that squad, and I think you see that kind of at play, especially in positions like Afrika was in, where they're coming down from that north side, coming up from that north side as they were downhill, working their way uphill, but they still found themselves getting in multiple team fights and collecting points all over the place. So really, really good stuff coming out from Afrika right now. They kind of got pinched there in the end, but it was going to be a rough road all the way up that hill no matter what. So they still ended up getting a few good points out of it.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and talk about the maps real quick. We're starting to get later into the day. It's only the first one, but we still have 3 more. We're seeing 2 more Erangels, and then we're following up into Miramar. I know it's a bit premature, and I know it's a little bit early, but how does this feel? From the player's perspective, maybe Black and Blue, to play 3 Erangels in a row and then suddenly shift up to Miramar. Is this a little bit of a sigh of relief from them when they finally get to move? Is it going to hinder their performance? Because, we're finally sitting into Erangel, and we'll have a change.
I think it depends on how these next 2 maps progress. If a team is currently feeling like, okay, we're not doing too well in Erangel, maybe that 4th map, as we do move on to Miramar, will be a welcome change. But for the others who might be on a hot roll right now, like Curzon, more importantly, they kind of want to stick. They probably want to stick here to Erangel because they've been doing pretty well so far. And so if I was them, I'd be kind of, you know, getting as many points as I can while they still got that steam blowing, and that wind is certainly, you know, blowing really hard in their favor. The wind's being caught by their sails. I would be like, I would really want to get as many points as I can early on these first 3 maps. For the other teams, maybe the Japanese squads, for example, that Miramar change could be huge. It could be what will just help them get over, you know, that hump and maybe bring themselves up further into the leaderboard.
Yeah, I'm just sad I'm not going to be able to see Sandhawk today. I'm a little bit basic like that because
at all, dude.
Yeah, I think all PUBG tournaments just should have Sandhawk and only Sandhawk. I'm sorry. No, I'm kidding, of course. I ain't that smooth brain, but
how about the TDM mode?
Okay, there we go. If we ever go to a tiebreaker, then we go into
get behind
TDM.
that.
Yeah, that's how we should be settled. Like just like men, you know what I mean? Settle things through TDM.
That's a play.
Little bit of a definitely gamble right there. But let's take a look at the top predators of the day. We sort of touched on this a little bit earlier, but now we get to see the most dangerous predators in the region here. So Simba, EJ, Lambu, Fanghua, and Upchen here. What do you think about this? Poro, I mean, you called it earlier on. He's absolutely on fire. 6 kills, 677 damage.
We take that. We take that all day long. And Black and Blue, you hit it. You were right, man. More than one. You got a couple of Curzon boys up here on this overall leaderboard. But yeah, I got to shout out the boy EJ as well. 796 damage. That's monstrous stuff coming out of him. Only 4 kills for that 790. You hate to see that, unfortunately, but I'm sure it's kind of doing that last little one good game. It's stringing 2 together. Get that second one, get that snowball rolling, and start to collect all the points that you can in that first day.
Yeah, I mean, while you can't necessarily bring what over from the previous map, obviously there's no weapons you can bring over. What's going to be more important over into map 2 is like the positive momentum have brought in map number 1. And right now, for teams like Curzon, for teams like MP5, that's going to be one of the most important things they're going to have to do, because let's face it, they're not the favorites here. Looking at it on paper, they're not the favorites. They're not the favorites to beat out the Japanese teams, much less, you know, the Korean teams. So they're going to have to need every single good start that they can on every moving gear, especially after that hot start on Erangel. You're going to need to bring it here onto our second map when we go back into Erangel, and the third Erangel run of the day too. It's going to matter so much more for these two teams that are, you know, kind of like the underdog, but trying to place early on in the tournament.
Yeah, kind of curious. I mean, we did say that we were going to see 2 players from Curzon up, then no surprises that they're up on second place. Now, if they can continue this playstyle, we have seen teams entire tournaments based off kill points alone, not just from the chicken dinners here, but we might not be seeing that much more of that in the near future. But for the meantime, we can rest in this safe space and this safe haven that, yeah, we're going to be able to get some rather tournament wins off of the fact that we do get kills a lot. How important do you think that is to the meta, Poro, that, you know, people are rewarded for that kind of aggression, going for those kills and, you know, going for those third parties?
I mean, look, that's the teams are built around that, right? I mean, that's when you're putting together your squad, you're trying to pull all the best players that you can think of. You're trying to pull the guy that 796 damage in a game. You're trying to get the guys that get 6 kills and can third party and play as a solo, as an individual, and do damage like that. Try to be an influence on the map. I mean, it's huge stuff for PUBG as a competitive esport. And you know, while it's not obviously not going to go away, it's not dying out with any rule changes that we may have coming up. We're not seeing it it's not going to be as highlighted as it was before. That individual mechanical skill, we're not going to see that as much of a thing anymore, which is a little bit sad. But you know, adjustments will be made. We'll find new superstars that can find their way to late game and make magic happen. So it's gonna be it's good stuff. I'm excited about it.
Well, Only time will tell. The future is pretty much unknown to anybody here, unless any of you have some sort of secret superpowers that I am not privy to. Black and blue, maybe you? No? Okay, yeah, I figured. But we're just about ready to go into the second map here. I think we're going to the plane in just a second. But before I do that, I'll get your final thoughts before we jump into it. Black and blue, any team you're looking at to win the second map, and then on to you, Paro.
I'm looking for more of that good energy that we saw from MP5. Although I think it might just be a one-off. I'm hoping for their sake it's going to be a redo of what we saw on map number 1.
VLG. I think they looked very. I think they got third-partied and had to pull back. But I'm expecting to see big things from them here in game number 2.
Well, you heard it from the past. Time to hear from the casters. So, casters, tell us all about it.
Lestrado may not be able to see the future. I can, and the future is excellent PUBG. Coming your way in the second map of the day. My name's Tavis. I'm here with Paper Thin to get this thing kicked off as we drop back into Erangel. One more Erangel after this and one Miramar to wrap out the day. So 3 more games of PUBG coming your way. Paper, you heard them talking a little about the times they are a-changing. When it comes to PUBG, the focus on frags will turn to a focus on survival. Have you seen any of these teams look like they're embracing it just yet?
I'd say if any team embraced more than others, it was a team like Danawa that reached out very early to the top of Stalber, which is traditionally a difficult spot to maintain due to a lot of geographical reasons, one of them being the expanse of that plateau that's on the top there. It's really hard to guard the edges of it to keep teams from coming up into you. There's enough cover and stuff on top of it as well that it makes it hard to hold. Teams can just drive and hang out with you. Oftentimes you'll see 2 or more teams sharing the ruins area or the houses on the side. So for me, they're clearly kind of toying with the idea of trying to go center circle. Now it helps that Yaz was their drop spot. So there's that, but I think the other team embracing the raw potentially the very kill point heavy meta.
It seemed that way. There was a lot of action starting at the very beginning. A lot of people looking for fights. And that said, though, I do think that a rude lesson will be learned, right? Danawa did that. They went to the middle, found a spot, but ultimately they didn't win, Paper. And part of that issue is when you crash middle, it often sets you back. If you get there too early, you're not improving your weaponry. You're not getting the pieces you want, and you're dealing with crash after crash after crash. So I'm curious to see with the transition to a new meta, do teams that continue to sort of be the big fighters continue to get wins? Because there's something to be said for momentum in this game, my guy. Like, we've all played it. There are games that I feel when I'm playing with my squad that when we lose early and we spend the whole time fighting for every inch of the map, we do better. And I've seen pro teams do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. It just kind of also depends on where the circles go. You have to know the terrain as well and how to play them. We saw this a lot at PGIS, where if you take a dip early, then teams will crash it and they will just brute force their way in. And it seems like whatever the last team to come to the dip is actually the team that ends up succeeding in the long run. So you kind of, these days, it seems like you want to be kind of the last one of the party if you're going to dive something that isn't a compound center circle.
I mean, 100%, right? The rules in PUBG are very similar to real life. Get to the party late so nobody thinks you're lame, but make sure you get to the dip before it's all gone. You want to get there. You want to, get the pole position. That said, with the change, drive-by meta is here. For those of you watching at home, there were recentization changes to shooting out of cars on the go. That means that things like crashing dips are far more feasible than they used to be, right? Because you can come in like a bristling tank or car full of battle, of hatred, and just flush teams, whereas the old days, you couldn't do crap in a car.
Yeah, it was much, much more difficult. You had to rely on good timings, good angles to approach from. Now it's kind of, you can kind of circle the wagons and run and gun around the people, just like you saw in the old West movies, where people herd people into a circle and just, spin around them and shoot at them. And that actually kind of works because of how easy it is. And so these pro players, their aim and their everything, their recoil control is already so good. It made this situation just much more viable for them. And you've seen some be employed, but particularly with dips toffees, it's much easier to assault them.
And I do think that last game, you guys probably didn't get to see a lot of sort of the motorized combat that we've come to recognize in the recent. And part of that is because of Stalber. Going up the hill is not the optimal drive path. So with this circle, if it's more centralized as we return to Erangel for game number 2, we see more of that car meta come into play. The plane path been established. You can see it there on the east side of the map, south to north. This makes drops for every, including Paper, the Pochinki team. Sports, the 4th phase will always move away from water. So teams are going to prioritize positions off of the coastline as they grab their early real estate. We'll jump over to FTB, who has already lost 2 players with only 4 minutes on that clock.
Yeah, the Fighting Bees were able to make their way into the lobby, but the other teams have brought the raid cans and the spray, and they're having a tough time with this, particularly Ghibli, this crazy talented Korea team. Lambo and Renba are going to try to just swamp them down, and they're fighting 2 battles at once. This is how good Ghibli is, and they're winning right now. Lion is down. This is just so crazy. Lambu here shooting through the door, opening up a lot of space, catches another bullet, doesn't get the knock, but it's 1 more bullet, and that is the end for the Bees.
That will be 1 more as Remba does kind of move up here, gets a nice little underhanded. I respect that Ghibli's playing this slow, making sure that they don't make a big mistake. You want to take 4 into the end game here, and that will be the end of Fighting Bees. You know, it was beautiful. He held the door. He gave a chance for his teammate to come in, get the underhanded grenade. If he had tried to peek or escape, he goes down to bullets. If he doesn't, he goes down to fragments. No way out of that for the Fighting Bees. Their first game in, remember they missed the first match. Now they're dead and watching the second one. Also worth noting, Yuta Esports. I was hoping to say Yuta Man. Turns out Yuta team that's unable to join the lobby, as they will miss this one as well. 14 teams left alive.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I was really curious to see.
I wanted to.
You know, you never know when one of those young players just has a ton of talent and just has been playing this game since day one, since they were, you know, 13 years old, and they come in here at 17 and are just absolute phenoms. We've seen it, you know, when these players reach the age where they're old enough to play in competitive PUBG tournaments, and they just show up and they just are, you know, gods at the game, and that young skill and talent that you're able to practice and harness in your youth. That's I like to see young players come through, but fortunately they haven't been able to make it here yet today. Don't know what's going on with that, but it is what it is. Danawa, southeast of Yaz, is going to be where they set up for now, just kind of watching teams rotate around them.
Yeah, interesting choice here. We'll see how that pans out. I mean, it is relatively straightforward. They did put some players in Yaz as well, right? So they do have lots of options. Traditionally with this circle, I hate using predictive circle theory, right, Paper? Because in this game, predictive doesn't necessarily mean efficient. That said, that's what they're doing. They're covering a lot of options because usually this circle will move towards Yaz.
Yeah, I mean, kind of part of the... Ooh, Renba might be in a lot of trouble here. He's one hit. Yeah, he's got to get a heal off, so he's going to bounce around the outside of the vehicle, try to buy some time. I think he has just enough of that house to block him from the sightlines of Donawa there, from the inside of there. But yeah, I mean, part of competitive PUBG is kind of playing the odds, right? It's a gamble in a way, like, because the circles do have some element of randomness to them. They're not entirely random, but there's enough that you have to kind of learn how to hedge your bets. You got to know the terrain. You got to know which positions are likely to, you know, favor your position, and you know when it's favorable to take fights. There's all kinds of like calculations that have to go into being a good PUBG team. In
a lot of ways, PUBG has always struck me, you know, this is a bit of a stretch on the metaphor, but like a deck building game, right? Like you sort of drop knowing what's available to you. You see what cards you draw based on the circle, the items you get early on, what cards are available, and then you sort of play it the best way that you can. It's not about not having RNG. It's about mitigating the effect that RNG puts onto you and your ability for your team to execute correctly. And that's what we see the best teams in the world do, is they don't have to get the perfect scenario every time because their deck is diverse enough that no matter what the draw, they can pull out a win. Now, we're seeing teams rotating out of military. That's MP5 right now. It is a tough win when the deck is stacked against you as a team like MP5 when you're rotating so freaking far. I mean, MP5 literally coming all the way from Nova.
Yeah, and M88 might be kind of hanging out around the bridge as well to make matters worse for them. You do see this from time to time where teams will camp those choke points on either side of the bridge, trying to rack in those kill points, trying to punish the other team for their late rotation. And that may or may not be the case. And VG they are doing the full hide strat in one of the J compounds. It is just a wait for them. They're trying to play the circle. And that's a strategy. I tell you what, that's a strategy.
That is a strategy. That is a strategy indeed. But, you know, they're preparing for the new format. Sunsister rolling up probably has no idea this is happening. And they're going to walk into this house pretty not, like, no one shot at you yet. You're not too worried about them being there. So we're going to see exactly how the first ambush goes.
Well, this is going to be a little bit weird. Kendes is just checking the garage for any stakes. So far, Sunsisters being a little bit disciplined. I don't know if they're going to be ready for this. I don't care how disciplined you are. The real question is going to be, are they going to be able to read the signs of the equipment on the ground? Is there any doors that were accidentally left open to kind of indicate this? Kendes dead.
Surprise!
Should be dead.
Can you imagine relaying those comms back to your team? Kendesu dies. Like, what happened? There's 3 people in here
in the bathroom.
If that's not my PUBG pub experience in a nutshell, I don't know what is. Oh my gosh!
So they're out. Now. You know, the surprise is kind of how do you say it? The way to win here. But, you know, the team isn't expecting it.
They did not. And I'll tell you what, two of the Venus players did not have optics. One did not have an automatic weapon. So maybe this is what they needed. This will get all 3 of them up and running with a new automatic, an M4, new red dot. So, you know, maybe they can fight out. They don't seem to be interested in it, though.
I mean, so Sunsisters here should have an opportunity to do something about this.
Yeah.
I don't know what the throwables are like for Gami. He has, okay, so this is why it's not been able, they haven't been able to deal with it. There are no frags or mollies for Gami, and that's a huge problem. Finally, Crazy Sam has showed up, but that might have given enough time for Venus to leave that room. Not too sure. Over towards not the real Anonix. This is GDI Anonix, not a Korean player, but trying some long-range shots. There's the grenade. There's their grenade. Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
Oh, no. Not like this.
You have paid for your sin, and they are eliminated. Venus Gaming goes out in 14th place. They stayed in the bathroom, and all it took was one well-executed nade from down below through the window. Click, click, boom. End of Venus. The circle has established itself. It goes north towards Komeshki. Still has about 30% water, which will be cut out in phase 4, meaning there is not a lot of real estate that is going to be desirable for a lot of these teams. Starting to feel like New York City, if you know what I mean, as everyone fights to find a little something to call home.
Whoa, Pure Boy, what a spray there onto Lambu. That was a turn and a half right there. That is some fancy work from him. He, you know, I got to say this, Pure Boy has really been impressing me over time, really improved a lot as one of the players to watch from Japan. During PGIS, I think he might have been the star player for E36 or one of the two. Really enjoying watching him play recently. In general, he seems to be really picking it up. Early on in 2020, I was more impressed with, say, Sylphia on E36, but since then, Sylphia kind of has fallen off a bit, and Pure Boy really picking up the slack.
I feel strongly that pro play fatigue has set in on a lot of players that we got to know very well in 2019, 2020. And we're seeing sort of an emergence of the hustlers, the ones who went through 2020, continued to put the grind in, have never stopped putting in the pub work. And they've really emerged. We saw that in PGIS. I think we're going to see it a lot this year as those grinders really come to prominence in 2021.
I think that's a really good point. I think we saw a lot of those players that really grinded. Like Kickstart, for example, was one that really impressed me at PGIS, just coming through for Zenith. Now moving over to Oath, but you know, he just played out of his mind and really showed the world what he was capable of. And you know, congratulations to him and that team. They played great. But regardless, yeah, there's a lot of up-and-coming players, a lot of up-and-coming talent in PUBG Esports that it's just so awesome to see across the world. We're going to get to see a lot of them here, Toffees, some teams from regions I haven't gotten to see before, to be frank with you. So I'm really excited for that.
And with the journey to PGC next year, this is where the statements start. We saw PGIS was an invitational. You got there by being invited based on your performance throughout the year and sort of the recognition you've gained. That's what these teams are doing. You may not have heard of some of them, but if they come out like that last match where we saw a team that traditionally MP5 isn't heralded as one of the best in the world, you earn your invites that way. DNW comes in and smashes on you as Salute will grab himself the bathroom and a chance to breathe before re-engaging in this fight.
Yeah, so Danawa making a push out to the East Coast. They want to clear this team out. They feel like they've got an opportunity to isolate and lock down STR, and so far so good. See if they can maintain it. They've got a difficult push coming up into that next building. No Soul here to back you up either. He's holding off on his own in the Eastern Compound. The superstar for Danawa, Tsukasa, just waiting, didn't get spotted through that smoke, so this could be a little interesting now for Danawa. They did check the kitchen well enough.
It was Tsukasa, but now it's their Casa as they control these top four. Come down to the kitchen, one down, gets the second, but when three are charging at you, there's only so much you can do. It will make them a little easier to kill in the future, but at the end of the day, that's why you push as a group, right?
Yeah, that was a heck of a spray. Oops.
Yeah.
Speaking of hecks of sprays, Hikari's going to get one.
Oh,
Poly
no!
trades. Roa there for the backup. And now it is looking not good for Sun Sisters. Hikari, Roa going to come up here and finish the job. Should be able to get the res as well. Good positioning for the Freaks. Even if they lose one, they've got somebody to cover. That's just good, solid PUBG right there.
Hey, Sun Sister. You know, and the Freaks feel like they're kind of maybe coming off that leash just a little bit. They were a little more reserved in the last game that I would have liked, but that push on Sun Sister was very strong and confident. They only did it with two. EJ and Hanzia weren't even necessarily in the mix till the very end of it.
Yeah, you know, if feeling like a freak on a leash, man, the old Korn song is definitely what I'm feeling on that one. But the freaks are nuts. When they want to be, they are incredible. They can fight with the best of them. I would say, like, if I was a little disappointed with them as PGI went on, I felt like they played too cautious, too passively. I think for the Freaks, their potential is in their ability to team fight well, cover each other, rely on their ridiculous mechanical abilities. They just couldn't seem to find the opportunities to do that. So that's why I thought very highly of them. I mean, they won a week at PGIS, but it was the first week that wasn't worth nearly as much money.
Absolutely. And in a lobby like this, I feel like a team like Freaks or even DGW should be throwing their weight around. They're teams that play better when they're just out there looking for fights. The super setting and the rules are as they are here. It's okay to get kills and go out early. It's almost preferable. Hikari. Nice play by Hikari. You can see in the kill feed there is he got a double off of that nade. That's it. Throw your weight around. Go after some of these weaker teams. Establish that dominance and get points on the board early.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's the way that they should be kind of approaching this. Just, you know, you should have the confidence to come into this lobby and frag out if a lot of these teams from Korea in particular. And for me, Afreeca Freecs definitely seems to be, at least in this round, kind of figuring that out. 8 kills already here for them. Curzon, another team that I think, you know, surprised me in round number 1. That looks like they have the potential to do that. Their shots were clean. Their angles were good. You know, say what you want about the teams they were going up against. They made it look easy.
Looking at the map right now, Sunsister out, but here's the one takeaway. Ghibli has a pretty good spot after that shift. They'll be able to hold edge and then play out along the ridge line. Donowa, with that shift, loses a lot of validity to their location. Not only will they likely not be in the final circle, they're going to have to push uphill coming out of that compound. So they do now have a tall order. And Curzon, who you just mentioned a minute ago, is in a much better spot. They have an edge control on the high ground, so look for them to go deep in this match.
Yeah, absolutely. Curzon's in a nice position. They can play it a little different this time. They don't have to go out and frag out necessarily. Maintain edge control, trying to keep the top of that mountain clear. And like you mentioned, give themselves a really good chance to go far into this game. Rascal Jester, another team that has work to do for sure out on the southern edge. But they can get into the horseshoe up here and take that underneath DGW. That is available. So if they can recognize that, they can't see it from their current position because of the way that hill slopes. But once they drive up there, I wouldn't be too surprised to see them just nestle up underneath the road.
MP5, our previous winners, just sort of tucked underneath Ghibli. They moved up there, their last surviving player, to try to hide out. And sometimes that's what you do, Paper. If you're a solo and you know the win is going to be a stretch, it works. We've done this before. You see a team that's got a high ground dominant position, you just sort of tuck in under them and let them do the hard work and guarantee yourself a top 5.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's something to be said about controlling space and pushing other teams like a broom into each other. So here comes Afreeca Freecs still on the aggressive streak throughout this one. This time it's going to be Detonation Gaming White who wants no business of this. So the Freaks should be able to take control of the artillery encampment. Detonation Gaming White has a position that they can fall back to with the Wizard House and the other house across the street. Machao even going to get in that Dacia. Where is Machao going? This is an aggressive position if he goes any forward. Wow, Machao. That is pretty interesting. I mean, I guess you could kind of stay underneath the sight lines of the Freaks if they come up over the hill, allow your teammates to shoot at them with the angles that you can create there.
Yeah, I guess that is a I'm confident that my team will defend me position, right? Like skeptical. It's within nade range. If the Freaks see you or get a glance on that car, it's an easy frag. So we'll see how that plays out. You can see the Freaks coming up here, and they're going to keep putting in work. 8 kills already. With 10 teams left alive, I expect them, even if they go out, to take at least 2 more with them. It'll be a big scoring game for Afreeca.
Yeah, and Roa there just domes Edwin, takes M88 out. Tough position for Edwin to be in, but it is what it is. Freaks pick up another kill. E36 has managed to rotate their way in between a couple different teams, between Ghibli, MP5, and Curzon. So while the spot is nice, they are now in the crosshairs of even Damwon, Kia, and Afreeca. So they've got to be pretty careful with that position, try to maintain their calm, not overuse the smokes as well, and see if they can hold on to it.
They actually used a very strategic push to take that building, assuming that it was occupied. It wasn't. It was a very smart way to push it. The problem was that's where the knock happened. Because they came in from 3 sides, they exposed themselves very comfortably for Afreeca Freecs. So sometimes because you make the right choice doesn't always mean it's the best choice. That's just PUBG when you have this many teams in such a small area. The shift comes out. It'll go to the south of the circle. And DGW is going to be very happy with what they have now.
Yeah, this is pretty nice for them. The problem is going to be that likely a couple different teams are going to have to try to push through their territory. Afreeca Freecs and eventually Rascal Jester. Rascal Jester coming, as you can see with what Kale is looking at over here, going up and over that road is really difficult for the Jesters. So for them, they kind of are forced to go to the east and try to wrap into that side. So Detonation Gaming White is a tall order. Hold this down. I'd really prefer to see Machao out in the open. I'm worried that somebody's going to find an angle onto him either from the north or the south.
Absolutely, and I think that the South Circle, they probably will hold and just kind of keep everyone else out. Those 3 teams, we see, you know, CRS is very likely going to make a hard send. DGW may have to defend against them here relatively soon, as people are just, there's not a lot on the north side of the circle. There's the hill and then open road. So very quickly, we're going to start to see some chaos break out.
Yeah, absolutely. It is going to get really, really dicey really fast. Rascal Jester. Shinobi had a couple nice shots into there, got a knock. Donawat trying to gatekeep a couple different teams up on the northern side of the circle. Curzon took a dive into the center, and smokes have to come out already. Soul gonna get headshotted by Renba. If you guys don't know Renba, he hasn't really had too many chances to perform on the international stages outside of early PCSs last year when he was on Team Quadro. But this guy is cracked out of his mind. At times, one of the best fraggers in Korea. He is a huge, huge pickup for Ghibli coming into this with the Quadro team disbanding. The guy can just ball.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not, I'll be honest, not super familiar with him, but what we've seen today has been great. Wesker comes up, gets the first and the second. 2 Freaks die to the incredibly powered Groza there as he gets the double transfer spray. Sin V does go down to Roja, however, as the back and forth continues. 2 knocks on Freaks is a very tough bounce back for them, though. I don't think they're used to it.
What a play. No, this is going to be really tough. Some good grenades are going to finish those knocks. Get a couple points in the back. What a spray from Wesker, though. Just showing you why that Groza so feared in close quarters situations. And that's a really big pickup for the Jesters, because now that opens a bit of breathing room for them. If they could kind of wait this out, Roa has to run into the smoke. He's getting pushed by Detonation Gaming White. EJ does get seized. So in all this chaos, I feel like there's a really good opportunity here for the Jesters.
That's huge. Wesker, though, forgot about the man on the hill. He thought they were falling back, but it was a great play. Roa stayed for a second. And though Sinvi does get the trade, EJ, last man standing, got the AUG, tries to make the play, but he is very low on health. Switches and gets the knock. He's looking for flushes. Points on the board. That's what you do when you're down to 1 man.
Oh, he's just incredible. I mean, those peaks were great. Never overextended himself, kept himself alive, switched to the mini at the right moment. Up Chen and Simba getting it done here. No! These guys have been playing out of their minds. Getting Renba out of the air, the pull from Team Curzon. My word, these guys are really coming in here strong today.
They are taking damage, but they came to play. Donoa making a nice little play on Simba there, gets the flush. EJ, by the way, while we watched that, was able to get a finish there on Wesker and Sin V. EJ, as a reminder, was the last man standing on the Freaks and is continuing to just absolutely make the Jester's life miserable.
He's just crazy right now. He's just really, really feeling it with that mini, catching Gabuha going up the hill, catching him going down the hill. Doesn't get the knock, but puts a lot of hurt into him. Now Fiachan has isolated him on that tree. He's got to deal with Fiachan, and then he might have a chance. Fiachan going back behind the hill, so he's got time to heal up.
I could actually hear Gaba yelling, "Cover me!" as I push. Why aren't you covering me? Why aren't you covering me? As he doubles back to the rock. EJ finally extracts himself back and ends up, gets a flush on Malofo. So even with their back against the wall, they're getting kills. But let's jump over to, oh no. Poor Rascal Jesters.
Yeah, this is tough now with a fully healthy Damwon Kia slamming in here as a 4-man. It makes things very, very difficult. The Jesters should be going down. Great drive by Sungjiang. Kind of drives himself out into the blue because of it, but that's all right. You took down the Rascal Jesters. You established some circle control for yourself. EJ looks like he's busy dealing with Jeff Lockup on top, so this one looking pretty good for Damwon Kia.
Ooh, sneaky, sneaky snake. Is Jeff Locka very low? He does know that EJ's there, sees him, I think. Did Jeff go to the bathroom?
Did he?
Oh, he's DC'd.
Did he take a break?
Disconnected. No, he disconnected. Look at his, if you look at Team 2, you can see it disconnected.
Oh, yeah, he's disconnected. Well, maybe he'll come back.
Strategy.
Maybe he'll come back.
Deep
Blue,
strategies, Paper. Deep strategies.
Nobody knows you're there, right? Poor Jeff Locka. That's unfortunate. Well,
pure stealth. Pure stealth. So he's gone. EJ has managed to take over the entire east side of the map by his lonesome. Donowa will be eliminated due to that we just saw. It is a 4-man up from Damwon Kia, which if you are familiar with this team and the names on it, that is terrifying for everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. They're scary. They were a highly touted team coming into PGIS. It was not their tournament. They definitely fumbled that one pretty hard. So looking to bounce back, picking up Wicked and Loki. Really coming to the squad. Just Wicked with us here today. Upchen out in the open. God, EJ is just dialed in with this mini right now. Looking to up and over, finish this point. He is going to get it.
I'm pretty sure EJ had one kill when the rest of his team died, for the record.
I think you're right.
And so 5 alone, okay, 14 for the team, and he looks like he may be able to keep this going. He may be able to sneak in on the fringe towards sort of that Harry Potter tower or whatever you want to call it and keep moving forward. He is absolutely cracked right now.
No, he's just nuts. That mini really seems to be doing wonders. The 8X, now he's going to get a little bit of breathing space as the grenade finds Martian Chun. Gokuri, the only one left for Detonation Gaming White, and we talked about it earlier, would have liked to seen Detonation Gaming White kind of coalesce as a group a little bit sooner, and now EJ's run might be overdue to some vehicle unfortunateness as he gets indeed taken out. Damwon Kia, 1 left to go.
Dead but not forgotten, okay? That was a great play, and I loved the way that he handled that for his team. Kudos to EJ. And now it's just Damwon Kia, like water rolling down a waterfall. They are just going to eventually remove DGW from their defensive position. Gokuri, not much he can do once they find out he's in here.
Yeah, this compound is basically a grenade thrower's paradise. As you can see, they could cover the whole floor with mollies, and they finish the job. Freak of Freaks, though, with a ton of kills, but it is going to be Damwon Kia with the win. But what a performance there from EJ. To me, that was really the highlight of that round.
Yeah, Damwon Kia played very well. Their rotations were strong. They executed their strength positions. I mean, the way that they pushed Rascal Jester to finish out the bottom of that circle and give themselves a dominant position was huge. But 14 kills from the Afrika Freaks, particularly on the back of EJ, who was down to 1, is, for me, standout play of this match. This is what you do when you don't think you can win. You get kills, and then the Freaks somehow stayed alive to get themselves 3rd, Paper. That's wild.
Yeah, it's a just crazy good play from him, and you could see why a lot of people think very highly of him in Korea. He's just, not only can he get it done with his guns, but with his brains as well. The guy is just a really, really, really fun player to watch. All of Afrika Freaks in general, actually pretty darn fun to watch. Damwon Kia, nice to see them coming through with a win, something they had a very tough time doing in recent history. Maybe this new roster change will kind of freshen things up for them.
You know, it was 2 amazing games. We have 1 more Erangel match and 1 more Miramar to go. When we come back, we'll get back to the panel, see what they have to say, and a special treat, Kylaris and Sims will be casting the next match. Don't miss it. That's going to be awesome, and we'll see you in just a few minutes.